So, yeah. All right. So, hey everyone. This is the Wild Hearthstone experts. We got four guys here with us to go and discuss the nerfs. So, we're really excited to discuss how this stuff impacts the Wild metagame. So, first, let's go through and see who everyone is. I'm DannyDonuts. I'm one of the Wild experts. I write for Tempo Storm, one of the Tempo Storm Meta Snapshot experts, and I also do some of the YouTube content there. I'm also on a podcast called Well Met, if you're familiar with that.
Hi, I'm Chai. I am a writer and editor on the Vicious Syndicate Wild Report. I previously to that used to contribute to the r/Wild Hearthstone Meta Report, and I am a competitive player. I've hit Legend a number of times, often with Secret Paladin.
Hey, I'm Eon. I'm one of the wild experts on the Discord as well, and just starting this month, I'm the Shaman Rider for Vicious Syndicate, and I'm one of the head people who runs the YouTube channel here. And I've hit Legend almost every single month since September 2017.
Hey guys, I'm Jonahrah. I was one of the top 8s at the 2018 Wild Open. I am a writer, Vicious Syndicate, the road writer for that. I write guides and content for Fate to Karma right now. And I've hit Legend every season Wild. I've been multi-Legend on different servers. I've been rank 1 quite a few times on NA. Usually using Naga Sea Witch and Call to Arms, so not sure if that's going to happen anytime in the near future again, but maybe I can high roll there with something.
Okay, so Danny, you wanna?
Yeah, sure. So we'll go down the
lead it.
line based off of what was released in the blog post about the nerfs. So we have the first one here. The most exciting for us is the Naga Sea Witch nerf. So Naga Sea Witch goes from being a 5 mana 5/5, your cards cost 5, to an 8 mana 5/5 with your cards costing 5. So, what are your guys' initial impressions of this?
So,
Obviously,
oh no, go ahead, please.
yeah, obviously the severity of the nerf, like considering how hard they nerfed it, really shows how long overdue this was. So yeah, I
It's
just
been
really
around a
feel
year,
like
right? It's been around
around
a
a year. It just really shows how much most of the wild player base is probably going to appreciate this. Keyword being most.
Well, I'll speak to that. I've played a lot of Giants decks. I've played Giants decks on ladder with all 9 classes. That was really fun. I can post those deck lists some other time. But I really enjoyed Naga decks, and I've been one of the louder voices on the side of really enjoying the Naga decks in terms of the interesting kind of warped meta that they've created. It's condensed the format, it's crowded midrange out, which is of course sad, and that is why I think it's really good that Naga is being nerfed all the way to 8 mana.
What do you think, Jonah?
I think that knowing Chalky thought Naga Sea Witch was the most broken thing ever. From what I've heard about, for those of you who don't know, Chalky played in the Wild Open and brought only Naga decks, and it is then tested for hours just every single Naga deck to find the most broken Naga list possible. And Chalky is become a part of Blizzard, so I think one of the first things he said when he got there, looking out for all his wild people, saying Naga Sea Witch is broken as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, he even
bad.
brought
And it
like
is.
Paladin
It was.
on that line. He
Yeah,
brought
Naga
Paladin.
Not a Paladin. Yeah, that was something. But yeah, I think it's 8. I think Sea Witch decks are playable still, which I
That's
think a
what I
lot
was-
of people have been joking about. I think Sea Witch decks is still playable. You can still make a good late game package deck with this. I think you definitely want to go to more of a 6 giant package now, as opposed to the 8 giant and 7 giant packages, which we've seen before. So then you take the Sea Giants out in some decks, or in other. You basically just play the 6 most playable giants, and you play a more slow, like in Warlock, you can just play more of a control Warlock deck, but instead of like the Cubes and Umbra and Tal'Daram, which you see in a lot of the control Warlocks in Wild now, you can just take those out and put the giants in. Instead of because it's very.
It's the kind of nerf that has done a lot for the meta. Changing it from 5 mana to 8 mana makes it no longer a fast combo deck. But it is still, I think, a really interesting combo deck. There are still classes, archetypes in the game that cannot answer a board full of giants. So that's always going to be playable in some way. The
And
ability
true.
to slow roll sequence your giants, if you're playing
Mhm.
fewer giants, becomes more interesting. I think that this is a really positive change. And again, speaking as someone who's played a lot of Naga Giants decks, I'm really happy that the card was nerfed in a way that means those decks can still exist.
at 8 mana too, you
Another
can.
interesting thing was a lot of people were discussing how the deck might just become more of a control killer type of deck. But the thing is, it's now one of those decks that there are certain other options you might want to choose before Naga, like maybe Kingsbane Rogue or something like that. But it's one of those decks that generally, since it's going to be way less common, so you're probably going to need a very specific answer to something like Light Bomb, Poison Seeds, and not all decks. Like, of course, Druid probably won't run Poison Seeds all the time, considering some of the other nerfs. But I feel like it's one of those decks that you need a very specific counter to, and if you don't have that, you're pretty screwed.
The big thing
Right,
when
so
it goes
making
to
it
8
harder
mana.
to run into it on ladder is good.
Okay, Danny, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, so the big thing that putting it to 8 mana does is a lot of the time on 5, you're only able to get Naga out with 1 or maybe 2 giants. The big thing is now you have a couple more turns to draw more cards. So the play that you're going to make with Naga is going to be 5 or 6 giants. So you essentially, a lot of the times you pseudo forced a removal from your opponent, but they didn't necessarily need it. There are sometimes you can play around it by doing other things, getting some minions on the board. And now, if you play Naga and like 4 or 5 giants every single time, it requires removal. So it goes from being something that can be slightly inconsistent to by turn 8, you will have Naga in your hand and you will have 4 or 5 other giants to play with it.
Just
It's
want to point
definitely
out.
going to be much more consistent on the turns it is played, like in terms of how many giants are played.
Yeah, and I think that that's actually really interesting. 8 mana brings it to something that I think is cool because you can use it with Loatheb effects also, interestingly, in Paladin with Rebuke. So theoretically, some kind of controlling Giants Paladin list could emerge that uses 8 mana to play Naga and Giants, and then 2 mana Rebuke, that's a spell. You still fit in this Loatheb effect that protects your board.
You can only Holy Wrath them to face for 20 now, though, so.
Oh yeah, the Mountain Giant nerf.
And I'd also like to point out
Molten.
you can still Naga on turn 5 if you're playing Rogue and you play Cobalt Illusionist and Silver Vanguard, and then you trade in your Cobalt Illusion. You play your Cobalt Illusionist 4, you trade it in, then you backstab that Silver Vanguard, and then play a bunch of Giants on turn 5 with your turn 5
Right,
Naga.
so the options
Super
are still
consistent
there,
combo.
they're just less consistent.
You can also do it there with Druid and Ramp, but that's.
Yeah, you could just ramp.
I mean, that's
innovate.
yeah, that's less fun though. That's less, to be honest.
Okay, so I think with that out of the way, probably going to go to the next card.
Yeah, sure. We can hop on to our next card, which is Spiteful Summoner. Spiteful Summoner going from a 6 mana 4/4 with its effect to a 7 mana 4/4. So Spiteful Summoner wasn't seeing too much play in Wild. A lot of Spiteful Priest was around. You saw some Spiteful Druid. So what do you guys
Especially in
think?
Standard.
Yeah, it's much more of a standard archetype than in Wild, because in Wild there are enough cheap spells from the history of the game that you might want to play a couple of them.
And
There's also a serious amount of terrible 10 drops like the old gods you never want to get.
Right, whereas in Standard you basically just pull Deathwing.
and also,
Or Tyrannus.
to be honest, Spiteful Summoner is store brand Naga Sea Witch. So
Yeah, it's the exactly.
like not like you are a Spiteful Summoner and Naga Sea Witch is the guy she tells you not to worry about. But yeah, so I think this like Spiteful Summoner would have been quite a bit better with the Naga change, and if Spiteful Summoner is playable in Standard, it's probably going to be a lot more playable in Wild. Because even at 7 mana, this card, if you're building a deck around it, is still pretty insane.
Yeah, and like I said, we have all these good old cheap spells in Wild, but we also have good old cheap minions.
Yeah, so I think this card is. I think Spiteful Priest and even with the nerf, I think Spiteful Priest and Spiteful Druid become better. There's also Spiteful Paladin decks and Spiteful Shamans that you can play. There's a Shaman run, right? Is there an 8 mana Shaman spell? Or is it the 7 mana?
There's
Seven.
only 7.
It's 7.
Seven's a bit awkward. Just 7 has sometimes you get a 1/1, but there's definitely Paladin has like the what's it called, the lay on hands, and actually Dino Size. That's the one you
Dino
really wanna play.
Size.
Dino size is pretty solid because it gives you a plan B.
Yeah.
So
8 mana, 10,
like
10.
as we can see with a lot of the nerfs even already, like you can see that they're really trying to slow down all the mana cheat stuff to give more players more time to react. So another thing is, like, even if Spiteful's played, you might have something like Twisting Nether to clear if they get Tyrantus and you can't use some sort of hard removal. So it just bridges the gap between where you would have an answer and where you just need to let it you yourself get hit in the face for 12. So
Yeah, 1 turn is a huge difference.
yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Huge difference.
Especially when we're talking about 16/16 of stats.
Especially on the coin.
Yeah. This is there's good change still. I think I think most of these nerfs in general good.
Yeah, I was actually impressed by how gentle a lot of the non-Naga Sea Witch nerfs were. They're very
Exactly.
subtle fingers on the lever that are gonna adjust a lot of things in the meta to hopefully be better.
There's
Yeah,
no war songs in this.
Yeah, it takes
There's
them
no war
from
songs.
it takes them from going to be auto includes in decks where it's like now you can go in and the deck will potentially be one of the options that you can have for that deck, which is
For
interesting.
sure. All right. Guys, ready to go to the next card?
Yeah, let's move
Yeah.
on. We have Dark Pact, which goes from 1 mana, destroy a minion, return 8 health to your hero, but now it only restores 4 health to your hero.
Yeah, only 4 health. It's pretty big.
So, I'm not so sure that this is as impactful for Wild as opposed to Standard, because a lot of the stuff that you're doing with relation to Q block where you're running this is it's reliant upon you getting the Dark Pact out and like against aggro. So I think that we have enough tools in Wild for you to gear your deck to be a little bit more defensive, and that's the way that Warlock's going to be from now on out.
Yeah, I think
sure.
a lot. We'll see in the Nets nerf that
Yeah, I was
killing
just about to talk
non-demon,
about it as
killing.
well.
You probably should just mention like the Lackey nerf with
Yeah.
this too, because they're very. You can probably
Related.
just start that real quick, Danny, because
Yeah,
they
sure.
definitely
So
relate to each other.
Lackey is also nerfed. So Possessed Lackey goes from 5 to 6 mana. So that is essentially these two are kind of coupled together because it's the nerf to the controlling Warlock deck.
So
For
one
sure.
thing what you can do in Wild when you're being a lot more demon sent, but like in Wild we have Void Caller, so you don't really need to run Dark Pact. You can run Sack Bat. So if you're playing a deck that
Yeah.
doesn't run cubes, and the deck your minion you're really destroying
Or
is
Savannah.
your basically if your minion you're destroying is a demon, you just run Sack Bat, which is 0 mana and heals you for 1 more than Dark Pact. Now, so like
Yeah,
one
that's
list
pretty
you can
good.
run is you just run if you're playing. Even with cubes, you can still do this, where you just have sense demons and weapon as your demon fetchers.
Yeah.
Because sense
Yeah, and then
demons-
there's also, I mean, it really is so important and so critical to how the deck is different in Wild. That
Mhm.
Void Caller, which costs 4 mana and is a 3/4, is a demon, and Possessed Lackey, which costs 6 mana and is a 2/2, is not a demon.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest
package
divide.
is so much faster, so much stronger,
Yeah.
and so much more versatile in the mirror.
Thing is, with Pact becoming 4 for sure. Like I think one of you said this earlier, but the fact that you're restoring, assuming you drop both, you're restoring 8 less health overall against aggro, gives them
Yeah,
a
that's
little
good.
more room to try and kill you. Whereas sometimes when you feel like you're almost about to kill the Warlock, but then that pack comes down, you feel really hopeless because then you got to get in like another hit with your Flame Wreath Faceless.
And the worst
It just
part about it is sometimes your reach plan for the Warlock is I'm going to do this much damage, and then I
exactly.
have a kill command and my hero power, and then they gain 8, and now your reach plan no longer works.
I'm all for Warlocks healing less. I think Warlocks heal way too much right now.
Yeah, for sure.
They have an OP hero
Agreed.
power with Gul'dan. They have an OP normal hero power. They have 1 mana heal 8. They have
They have
they
1
a
mana
life,
draw a card.
1 mana draw. It's Warlock's gotten kind of insane recently, so I'm
It has
happy
a
to see
really
Warlock
good
get dialed
generic
back.
toolkit.
Yeah.
which wasn't the case in the past. Like these last few expansions, the generic toolkit for Warlock is insane.
Absolutely. Like even just looking at Void Caller, which used to be like a 3 out of 5 card and is now easily one of the strongest 4-drops in Wild, especially after these nerfs.
Probably in the game now. It's probably the best. Well, Barnes. So it's probably the second best 4-drop in the game now.
Yeah, and you can. It really is worth repeating that going to Sack Pact instead of Dark Pact, the 0 mana spell, it's cheaper. It brings out your combo a turn faster. You can target an opponent's Mal'Ganis with it. That is huge.
Yeah.
Because it means that the mirror is also able to defeat the mirror, so you reduce the population of the #1 best deck on ladder.
I also
Obviously, sorry. The one big thing with Dark Pact is the reason it's so versatile is because you have this cheap effect that can destroy your cube, some more Doomguard, some more Mal'Ganis in the same turn, whereas something like Power Overwhelming, it happens at the end of your turn. So the essence of the card itself is still intact, but Warlock may have a smaller window. Sorry, aggro decks will have a bigger window to deal with the Warlocks when they heal using Dark Pact.
Right, and Power Overwhelming is also interesting to talk about in the deck because it's a Hall of Fame card, so it's only in Wild, and it's very powerful for trades, for surprise lethal, for Power Overwhelming Shadow Flame. It's a very versatile card as well, but like you say, it sacrifices the guy at the end of the turn.
Yeah. I think that I also like to see it. It's more interesting, I think, when people are running Sack Pact in the mirrors. Like the Sack Pact element in the mirror is always a really interesting thing to play around. Where you're trying to play around your opponent's Sack Pact. You're wondering, hedge is good now to use my Sack Pact on my own Void Caller, get the immediate tempo of the demon. Do I want to wait a few turns so I can get more tempo when I kill one of his demons that comes out? It adds a lot more intricacies to Warlock mirrors. Not that they weren't, not that Q-Block mirrors. Yeah, not that Q-Block mirrors weren't already intricate, but it adds another layer to it, and I like to see that. So I think just almost everything about this nerf is good. I don't see any real problem. I don't see both these nerfs, Lackey and Dark Pact, becoming nerfed.
Another thing they mentioned in the blog post was that obviously Warlocks, when they use their effects that deal damage themselves, like Hellfire, Life Tap, Kobold, Librarian, it's supposed to feel like a downside, but the thing is with Dark Pact, it just feels like there's no real downside to constantly look at it.
If I may, there's an anecdote or a saying in Magic the Gathering about life and paying life for things. The story is new players often are really reluctant to pay life for things because they think that life is important. But all pro players will tell you that the only life total you need is 1.
Oh.
It's a very good analogy. Not analogy. Okay. Very good.
It's a concept that
English
you should know about. Yeah.
Reminder. It's a good word.
Reminder. There you go.
We had a lot of good things to say.
Well, I had one relatively good high-level observation about Dark Pact being nerfed, and that is that when you compare the standard version of controlling Warlock as opposed to the Wild deck, Standard loses out a lot more, obviously. So the Standard meta is going to advance, so the decks that prey on, like, Q-Block are going to become better there. So they're going to become, through the trickle-down effect, it's going to come up in Wild a little bit more frequently. So the issue is that the controlling Warlock in Wild is going to be stronger. So it's going to stick around more and beat on those decks which are emulating the Standard decks. So that's a really interesting thing to think about when you're going into this new meta shift. Everyone's going to be trying out things that people in Standard are playing that'll potentially be okay, but Warlock is still here to stay as probably one of the stronger classes in its controlling sense.
Yeah, so it has some of the strongest turns in the game. Gul'dan is probably the strongest Death Knight. Void Caller, as we said, is the second strongest 4-drop in the game after only Barnes. Void Lord we all know how good Void Lord is.
Yeah. Well, Void Lord's different because it's only really impactful when it's cheated out, like at 9 mana, sure.
It's still good at 9 mana.
It's still really good.
There are times when you're an aggro deck, you have a board, and they play 9 mana. They play 9 mana to
commit a lot to it.
They play a 3/18 taunt on turn 9, and I have 10 power on board, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh well, I guess I lose the game now. Especially because they have N'Zoth and Gul'dan to bring it back next turn. So even if I have 18 power on board and I don't have a silence, which 18 power is a huge ass board that I have, and I put it all into this one card, and then he just plays it again the next turn, and he gets probably
With a
something else.
3/5/7.
Yeah, it's probably something else with it too. And he gets 9 more stats with it if he plays Gul'dan, and it's good.
For sure. You guys want to move on to the next card?
Yeah,
Or-
what's the next
Let's
card?
go.
So,
Okay.
do we want to continue talking about? Let's talk about Lackey.
Yeah.
Have we-
Lackey for sure.
I don't think you run Lackey anymore.
Yeah.
And then
So-
it sits.
It sucks now.
I mean, I have a thought about Lackey in Wild, actually. And it's that in Standard, Lackey is the only real enabler for that. You have the weapon as well. But in Wild, Void Caller, the 4-mana guy, is also a demon. So sometimes you have these situations where you kill your own Lackey, and you get a Void Caller out of it, which is totally not what you were hoping to get. And
Exactly.
then you have to, like, sack pact the Void Caller again in order to get your, like, Mal'Ganis
Yeah.
out. So I
When I
think that
played,
it's an interesting question to see, will Lackey, now that it's 6 mana, a fairer cost, make it into inclusion in the Wild decks that already have 3 or more cheat enablers?
when
Personally, I think that the this is just my prediction though. I feel like the sense demons will probably become more prevalent in the Q block decks because like probably you run weapon and you're able to get those demons into your hand and instantly summon them on the next turn.
Yeah, or
So-
even just sense demons on 3, sets up Void
Exactly.
Caller on 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I played actual Q block, when I would actually build Q block, I didn't like playing Lackey. I played 1 Lackey at most. I thought like even 5-mana Lackey just felt a little too slow, honestly. Just you
Oh
would
yeah, like when I
I
needed
just
a
liked
spot, I cut a Lackey.
I just liked having the sense demons and then void callers and
Sense
with
demons is really good.
yeah, sense demons
Dean
is kind of like the
actually-
mana cheat thing
Dean-
in its own.
Dean peaked at number 2 legend, I believe, with actually kind of interesting a list with no void callers and just double Lackey, and he only had the Mal'Ganis and the double void lord deck. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was like the control. I got the 2 with I got the rank 2 with that. With the other way around, where I had the I didn't have the lackeys. I had just the void callers and sense demons, and then I tuned into Mason. It was kind of early in the season. I tuned into Mason. He's a pretty well-known memer in North America. He's a last place legend, and he dropped 16 ranks or something like that, which was like 7 or 8 wins worth of MMR. So that was a bad feeling, but filled out the 2 with that deck. So that's
So when you remove Lackey, though, recruiting the demon from your hand is different than taking it out of your deck. So this really incentivizes more draw, and obviously we have that through Sense Demons, but potentially you could start seeing other like draw cards so you can cycle through your deck faster.
You have
Possibly, yeah.
you have life tap though.
Yeah. It's all like for you to run card draw and Warlock, it has to be absolutely insane.
Yeah, like
So
Librarian, which is
it
the
needs
best
to be
one drop in the
Librarian.
game.
Yeah, it needs to be pretty broken card draw. So it needs to be like Sense Demons is 3 mana draw 2, which is an OP, but it draws 2 OP
2
cards.
very specific cards that
Yeah.
synergize.
Yeah,
it's more
it
like
draws-
a tutor effect kind
It's a
of.
tutor. Yeah, I mean, it is a tutor, yeah. And then Cobalt Librarian is 1 mana, 2/1 draw
Well,
card,
Cobalt
which
Librarian
just,
is again
oh
one
my
of the
God.
5 strongest cards in the game.
Yeah, 1 minute. It's really hard to find 1 mana like non-situational draw that's not played. Like Powered Shield is played in every priest deck that plays minions. What else is there? There's a few others that are 1 mana draw cards that are all just insanely good and played in almost everything. Like Swashbuckler, Babbling.
Yeah.
Babbling Book was played for a while, but Babbling Book was a bit.
Yeah,
made just a
Swashbuckler,
different-
especially before the patches nerf, was fearsome.
Swashbuckler was played before patches because just
Yeah.
the way Road operates with just really wanting that it's good tempo and okay value.
Yeah, you get
So
some
it's
value
just
out
good
of
for
it while
tempo
playing a
decks.
tempo deck.
Because Road has a bunch of really good
Maintaining your
tempo
card,
cards.
like you're not losing card advantage.
Yeah, Road has a lot of good tempo cards. So as long as you're not losing, as long as you're not falling too behind on cards and aggro mirrors, you're gonna win a lot. And
But
that's why stuff like Blink Fots is just standard right now.
what about the next nerf, though, now that we've talked about Rogue, which isn't even in the discussion?
Yeah.
True. Let's
True,
move
true.
on to our next card then. So our next
Well,
card.
it is. We're doing some discussion.
That's true. No, I mean of Nerf
Yeah.
cards.
True. No.
I didn't mean not in discussion in Wild. Kingsbane exists. Kingsbane is viable.
There is a Nerf card.
There is a
There's a
rogue
Nerf.
card that got
Yeah.
nerfed.
Yep. We will get to that one last though. So
Yeah.
our second to last Nerf card is Call to Arms, which now goes up from a 4-cost card to a 5-cost card.
R.I.P. Pour one out.
It's actually still really good though.
Oh, it is.
Thanks.
It's still extremely good.
It's kind of balanced and stable.
People are talking
fair
on,
card
online
now.
sometimes about like, should I dust my Call to Arms? Will I ever play this again? And I mean, I think a good analogy is Spreading
Yes.
Plague, which was nerfed from 5 to 6, and it's still a 2 of in
Exactly.
like 3/4 of all Druid decks.
Well, one of the good things about nerfing cards is that you can dust it and you get the same amount of dust back. So as long as you hold on to that dust, Call to Arms could be bad, but you can always just reinvest it if
refresh
about a
it.
week or two afterwards everyone is like, oh, Call to Arms is still like
good.
viable. Yeah. So you can
This
all
What I think is interesting is that Call to Arms is now less generic because it doesn't fit in either odd or even paladin.
Exactly.
I disagree with that,
Like-
actually. I think
Well,
that it
sure,
fits
but-
really.
but
I think that you
it's
can
worse.
definitely. It is worse, but I think you can play this in Odd Paladin so that now you can go and play more 1-drops and then also play high end. Like you can play some high drops in the deck, and then this will just go and remove your low minions and improve your draws throughout the game.
Oh yeah, and then you can just play Boom on Curve.
Do you really
think-
want
I
to
think
be
this-
recruiting 3 1-drops for 5 though?
I think
Yeah,
this.
what about,
I
I
mean,
think
what
this
about
card
the
is.
Dream
I think
card?
this. I think
Small
Nerf.
player.
I think nerfed Call to Arms is better in even Paladin than Odd Paladin.
What?
That's a funny
Because
joke.
he's because
That's a
still
good
get,
one.
I
I
wanna
like
talk
because
that.
he
about
still get the effect.
Oh
I
my
think
god.
that it's still
Okay.
very like going from 4 to 5 mana has a conflict, an issue for the even and odd decks. But when you talk about aggro or breakfast paladin, when you talk about secret paladin, when you talk about in standard at least Murloc paladin, although Murloc paladin is not like
No, Merle
Yeah,
Paladin's
even
good.
like
it's
anything
tier 3 in
paladin. This is
wild
the
because
one
it plays
card.
Tarim and it's hard not to be tier 3 if you play Tarim.
It's like a tier 2/tier 1 deck in standard right now.
Yeah.
Isn't
but
Call to
it's
Arms the
much worse
reason?
in wild is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Because wild
Call-
is stronger.
You can also play just normal recruit Paladin in standard too, which I think is probably going to be the deck there.
Mhm.
But we're obviously not talking about that.
Oh,
But
yeah,
this card,
Paladin, of
this
course.
this card could cost 6 and still be played. This card,
Yes,
Call to Arms the
absolutely.
reason
ridiculous.
this isn't played in anything isn't Call to Arms the reason Finja isn't played in anything Paladin though?
No longer, yes, you don't need Finja
Yeah.
anymore.
Because
Like,
this is
just get those
Finja
blue
a
gills out.
turn. This is Finja without a condition that's a turn earlier and better.
Yeah.
Oh. Now it's the same
Yeah,
turn.
even
same turn.
post nerf, it's still a turn faster than Finja.
Exactly.
Yeah, true. 'Cause, you did it immediately. Yeah.
Yeah.
It still cheats mana. It draws
still
you 3
thins your
cards
deck.
without. Yeah, it thins your deck for. It gets rid of 2-drops without actually. It doesn't spend any mana. So it's you play. Usually it's like 2-2-drops and maybe a 1-drop sometimes. So you're playing 5 mana for. Usually just the 2-drops are a bit overstated. You're playing actually for way more than 5 mana worth of stats, and you're getting 3 bad draws out of your deck. So, yeah, it's still insane.
I also find it really funny how on the blog post they had to mention that because of it being 5 mana, the deck recipe for the Gen Grey main deck is changing from Call to Arms to Serenade Chain Gang.
I'm really
They said
happy
the-
about that. I'm always whenever I go to ladder, I go to the deck recipes first.
I think you
actually
guys-
play
And then you
cards
toss
like
that entire deck list out, and then you add in all the wild cards.
I think a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
don't-
people use those deck recipes. I
Yeah,
think you're
no.
underestimating
Yeah, no,
something.
it's a legit thing, but
It's good for a newer player to learn how to do everything, though. Like, oh, this
I
is
think-
what
yeah.
a
Here's the
good
thing,
deck looks
deck
like.
building and playing are 2 different skills. So if someone's good at one but not at the other, they should be able to get help with the other one.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, I'm just a
That's what net
grinder.
deck is for.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm just a net decker. I don't know how to put cards in my deck.
Well, I'm a deck
I need
builder.
some-
and
I
love
need
when
someone-
people who
I
are
need
good
someone
at the
to-
game play my decks.
I need someone to do it for me. Okay, I need someone to either give me a code or give me a deck recipe or something like that.
I
But
think we've reached the
Call to
point where
Arms.
we're running
Call to
out of
Arms.
stuff to say.
Yeah.
was insanely good, is still probably worth
Yeah.
playing.
You might not
For
be
sure
able
we're
to hit
playing.
Legend with autofill Paladin now, because before you
Yeah.
just put 2 Called Arms in the deck and just hit autofill,
And Terran,
you can
and
hit
Terran.
you put Called Arms and
Yeah,
Terran
you
in
get
your
your
deck,
two
and then you
zombie
just
cows.
hit autofill, and you can hit Legend with that deck.
So now
You might not be able to do that now.
Now you gotta get lucky with the autofill.
Oh man.
That's the
This
next
curve's a bit
level
better.
RNG.
Honestly,
So
the thing
I think
about this though is it curves better into Terran now. That is
Yeah.
That's true.
kind of a thing.
Yeah, sequencing those two with the gap in the middle was always.
That was
That's
the thing
true.
you did. That was the thing you didn't even Paladin. You play. It was a lot of times better to play Call on 5 and Hero Power with it because it just curved into Terran a bit better if you're holding Terran in hand. So sometimes it's better to like play True
I agree.
Silver or even Paladin Wild too. I guess you play True Silver or Chain Dane on 4 or Shredder or something like that, and
Shredder,
then
we
the
play
next
Shredder.
turn, yeah, Shredder. You play Chain Dane. Chain Dane's good.
Yeah,
know,
but
less-
I
less
have golden
stuff, but
shredders.
yeah,
I crafted them 3 years ago, and I finally get to play them again.
Yeah. But you would play your 4 before, then Called Arms, Hero Power, because you get Knife Judlers and stuff with it, and then Terran on 5. So it just, yeah, the card is a bit more fair now. It's less bullshit, but it's still a little bullshit. But it's like it's handleable bullshit. I'm not to be losing sleep over Called Arms much anymore.
Right. It's a fair nerf. I think we're all happy with the nerf.
For
Mhm.
sure.
If they just right click and then hit delete, I would have been fine with that too.
Honestly.
But
I bet
this is okay too.
X Crouton would have been like thanking Blizzard for a long
Yeah.
time if they
Get
did
rid
that.
of Muster and Righteous Protector while we're at it too. Those
Yeah.
cards.
And shielded
Right,
mini bot too.
Oh god.
Yeah, just Paladin.
Delete Paladin.
Sorry, hate him.
Okay.
All right, let's
Now that
move
we're
on to
talking
the
about
last
autofill
nerf.
decks. Yeah, let's just move on to the
Let's
last
move on
one.
to the last nerfed card. We have the result that you get back from the Rogue Quest, the Crystal Core. So essentially now your minions turn into 4/4s instead of 5/5s.
Oof.
I can't wait for them to nerf this again at some point.
Yeah. I saw people dubbing this the nerf that isn't really a nerf.
Oh no,
It's a nerf. It's significant.
Yeah,
People are definitely not realizing how significant a change this is. I think this might still be playable though, and the correct thing for them to do with the Road Quest is probably just to make it unplayable, because whenever it's playable, it's I think this deck is just kind of unhealthy.
It's still just doesn't it still just beat like every single not every single but most control decks.
So
Why
it
don't-
still
It's a lot
has
harder.
game against it, but the
It's-
big thing. I'm sorry.
It's harder to OTK with this now, because when
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
when
say.
you play it in
OTK.
slow decks, a lot of people would play Quest Road pretty bad and not get good value out of all their chargers. Because you can make it so that if you're playing in something like Control Warrior with the old deck, you can make it so you dealt like 80 damage over like 3 turns, and there was just no way for the Control
yeah,
Warrior
and
to
you'd
win
vanish
unless
everything
they
back to
ratted.
the hand, so it couldn't even die.
Yeah, that's what you do. You just play 4 chargers, hit face with all 4 chargers, banish the minions back to your hand, and then the next turn, play 4 more chargers, hit face with all of them, banish them all back to your hand again. And then you had all the other bouncers, so you could deal up to like 80 charge damage over the game. And
Does Quest Rogue still
there's
run
no way
Valyra?
to out. There
What-
was,
what-
You can
if
now
you ran
run
Valyra-
Valyra. Yeah, you
if
can
you ran
now run
Valyra, you could
Valyra,
deal.
and so if you do Valyra and the cheese card, Golan, what is it, Zola the Gorgon.
Zola the Gorgon.
Yeah.
You always run. You run Zola anyway.
So
The
if
cheese
you
card.
run those, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you
a
did get
cheese
in-
card.
you get
But-
infinite value.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
literally
One
play
thing
infinite
that
number of
I do
threats with
think
that.
is relevant about this nerf as opposed to the other nerf that happened to the same card last time is that there are a lot of X5 taunts. And no longer being 5/5s and being
Yeah.
4/4s makes trading more complicated.
Yeah, it's really harder. It's probably more doable to fatigue this deck now than it was before. Because it is usually when you would fatigue this deck, it was because the Quest Road player fucked up at some point, and
Mhm.
now you might be able to do it without them stirring up. Just Quest Road is insanely hard to play well. Like to play Quest Road perfectly in some long grindy games is insanely hard to do every turn 100% correct. So there would be little errors here and there that you would kind of need the player to do to win as a slow deck. And now with them having less charge damage, needing 8 minions to kill you instead of just 6, with the math actually being harder now, that is something to consider too. The math is harder. It's not just multiples of 5. So that's
absolutely.
more you have to
And
think
I think
about in a
lot of the
turn.
difficulty in playing the deck is being able to do the math on the fly. If the math
Yeah.
is harder, the deck is worse.
Yeah. So it makes the deck a little worse. This deck wasn't too prevalent in Wilds because I think me and Control were like the only people who really played it.
I played a little bit too.
I played it a
but
little, but
Some
yeah.
people played it a little bit. I think Control got to a decent range. I got to a decent range with it, even though I didn't own Sonya. I just still haven't gotten around to craft Sonya, but
maybe not even
cards-
worth it at this point.
yeah, Sonya should do interesting things. If you had Valyria, you could get infinite value. You could get infinite chargers.
Sonya and a boar for yeah.
Yeah, the Sonya
Or
Shadow
Sonya
Step
Shadow
and the
Step,
Sonya
yeah.
Boar the next turn was insane.
Like, turn 3 Sonya Shadow Step is like I've actually never pulled that off, and it happened to me all the time, and I'm just like one day.
Yeah, I like the deck because it's intricate. I don't like the deck because I don't like playing against the deck. And the same way with Kingsbane Rogue, I feel very similar to that deck because that deck has a lot of uninteractivity whenever you're playing something like Reno Lock or Reno Mage. It's like, wow, you played Kingsbane on one. I guess I can just concede and find a new game because this is not going to be worth playing out because there's pretty much no way for me to ever win. And I don't like that those archetypes are like that. I like that they're intricate and that they're like control counter decks, but I feel like there's still not enough interactivity with these decks.
There's something interesting if you look at kind of Blizzard's general attitudes to combo in Hearthstone, combo decks, combo archetypes, and with the nerf to Naga Sea Witch and also this nerf to Quest Rogue, I think it's really interesting to look at the fact that Naga and Caverns Below were really like the two assertive combo decks in the format, and all the other Inner Fire Priest, I guess. But a lot of the other decks in the format that did play combo cards or synergy or however you want to call it were reactive decks. You know, stuff with demons, stuff with cube things. Big Priest is a combo deck. All this other stuff. But finally, the two
Warden Warrior
proactive combo decks have been deemed to no longer. Like the reason that these cards get nerfed, these cards get people wanting them to nerf them so badly is because people don't like playing against combo, especially if they're not used to playing against combo. And then also the fact that these combo decks are faster means that they feel worse about it.
Well, one of the things about these decks is they're Hearthstone decks that aren't Hearthstone decks. Like you look at
Right,
Quest
exactly.
Road and Not a Giant and just how different they are than every other deck. Well, Not a Giant's kind of similar. It's like you draw a card, even Quest Road has the same thing. You draw cards, you assemble your combo, you do your combo, opponent dies. But they do them so quickly and not.
Astral Communion is a good analogy, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah, but like
you do a thing, and if you have the thing, you win the board.
And people hate losing. Like losing to combo decks isn't, because the whole thing about them is that they do something that is very hard for you to interact with, and it just kind of wins the game on the spot because it's so insanely powerful. And if you're playing against this, it feels bad to lose to. And it's nice to have those decks because they're really hard to play a lot of time. But I feel like there's a lot more.
Hard to play,
a lot of Naga was not hard to play. Naga was really easy to play, but a lot of them, like the charge one, there's a lot more interactivity with like other combos besides like that Kingsbane Kingsbane has like no interaction right now. There's like the way to kill Kingsbane's combo is you like dice them on curves so they can't play deadly poisons, then rat out their cold lights, and what's the other thing you do? There's also like the ooze gnome combo. If you get them to if you somehow survive to fatigue and you're playing warlock, you ooze them and then gnome the Kingsbane.
Okay, yeah,
or you can
so
togwaggle them and then
with the combo.
you can togwaggle them and then play their cold lights and make them take all the fatigue damage.
Yeah, and then you're like, haha, you took like 5 fatigue damage, and then they just hit you with a 20 attack dagger. They hit you with a 20 attack dagger, you're like, yeah, got him.
Sure, get the 30 damage fatigue. That'll show him.
Yeah, playing Druid against either road archetype is kind of sad, but it is nice that it does keep Druid in check. And I think the Naga decks are keep Druid in check now too, because that's still just like an off thing. There's a lot of Druid you can just play Naga decks. Druid's probably not to play Poison Seeds now, so you can play Naga decks to kind of hard count them. And you can also, when you're playing Quest Road,
you don't have to play around Poison Seeds by sequencing one giant at a time. You can actually play your combo.
Yeah, and like the Kingsbane Road matchup is just really unfun for playing Druid, and really that was a pretty brain dead matchup as the Road, because you just kind of won. There was no way for Druid to out-arm you, and they almost never comboed you in time before they just died to your giant weapon. But yeah, this this nerf does change things, but it probably changes the deck enough that it's unplayable in Wild now. It might still be playable in Standard to a degree, though. Unless they print another, like, Sonya type card
Well,
in the
yeah,
future,
I think
which
that
they very well
the
might.
deck might come back in Wild, but I think it is this second nerf has really, really fucking hit it.
Yeah. And when they print
there
more
is
cards
a
like
slight
Vicious
buff
Scale
that we
Hide.
haven't mentioned. We haven't mentioned that now Priest has a slightly harder time playing against it because everything's a 4/4.
But they still have Light Bomb.
Well, Light Bomb is the one thing that... but the thing is, you can now play around that, obviously. If you're playing the Rogue as Quest Rogue, you know that they have 1 or 2 Light Bombs, and you can essentially bait them out of that and then play some more. So
if you were losing to Slow Priest as Quest Rogue right now...
Well,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know
the thing,
what
right? Like, people are saying it's better against Priest now, but
Well, my 90% matchup became a 93% matchup now.
yeah, exactly. You were already built, designed to only give a shit about Light Bomb, and so if they have Light Bomb, you still lose. But you don't lose.
Yeah, you don't lose to Priest with Quest Rogue ever. Even with 4/4s, 5/5s, it doesn't happen. So we don't talk about like the meta now?
You guys want to talk about post meta predictions?
Yeah.
Well, I think the big one that everyone kind of has spied on for how the meta is going to change is that mid-range decks that can't answer giants and control decks that can't answer giants have more breathing room. So that means maybe mid-range hunter. That means maybe Reno Mage. Maybe that means control shaman. Although I think control shaman is still pretty bad, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think control shaman is like gonna come back now. Like control shaman to get Q
I would
block.
like to see that. That would be nice.
I think people are saying mid ranges are coming back, but I think Q block's still a thing, and Q block shits on mid range decks. So
I'm actually excited to try control shaman again. It seems like
I think
I haven't played it in so long.
Hex and Evolve are very good when you're just trying to res and bring bad demons and do that very specific thing. So I think control shaman becomes good. There's not really a good. There's Melido's Druid. That's an okay OTK deck right now, and like Todd Vital Druid. But you can run rats to get around that. There's not really and as long as Reno Priest doesn't come back, that's another deck I think might come back with the Naga going away because Reno Priest kind of struggled into Naga and lots become slower, and Reno Priest can still handle aggro well, and now like the decks that pressured them.
Yeah, Reno decks in
they're having more time. Yeah, Reno decks in general.
I'm excited for Hyper Aggro, Pirate Warrior, Face Hunter. Like, those were kept out of the meta because of Paladin. And then the nerf to Call to Arms essentially comes in, and now you can be a little bit more aggressive. So a lot of the face decks can now start coming back into the meta.
Yeah, like Baku Hunter even was worse at aggro than Paladin, so...
Baku Hunter is kind of worse at aggro than every other.
Yeah, fair enough. Baku
Hunter is an aggro deck that loses to most aggro decks and can beat control decks because of its hero power. But I think that aggro suffers and gains from these nerfs because while Paladin is nerfed, Recruit Paladin was still a really bad matchup for aggro decks in the past. Like even without
especially if it picks up level up.
Yeah, without Call to Arms. Retreat's Paladin still beat a lot of aggro decks. It lost to Druid, and it still kind of loses to Druid with Call to Arms. That matchup probably becomes a lot better, so aggro Druid might become more of a thing, because aggro Druid could beat Paladin it could be kind of favored against Paladin when Call to Arms was 4. With Call to Arms being 5, I think that matchup becomes really good for Druid.
Yeah.
Aggro Shaman can probably actually just play Maelstrom Portal now. Because before he played Maelstrom Portal, and it still didn't really help all that much. But even now, you can play like kind of the slower, grindier aggro shaman, like the Aya Jade package. You don't have to go the all face route anymore. You can still do that route and maybe still be a little better against Paladin now. But like, these decks, like the Pirate Warriors, aggro shaman, become better because Paladin's weaker, but they also become worse because giant decks don't exist, and you lose your best matchup. So you lose your best matchup, and your worst matchup becomes a bit better. So they might become better, they might become worse. I think them changing and their standing in the meta won't change all that much. They might get a bit better, but I don't think that change all that much with the aggro.
Any decks you feel like become just significantly better because of these cards becoming worse?
Control Shaman.
Odd Rogue picks up some stuff too. I like Odd Rogue a lot.
One
What
thing I'm
is,
actually kind of excited to try is my Mind Blast Control Priest with screams. So like, because
that's
I remember I would, it's kind of like more memey, but it was actually pretty fun when I tried it. But since I would like you're trying to just stall with screams and stuff, the giants were pretty annoying.
without the
I think
giants.
Paladin diversity might be more interesting as well. Like I think Secret Paladin is in a really, really good place right now. And I
Yeah,
think
that's
that being
interesting.
able to still play 2 Call to Arms in Secret Paladin probably will still be really good.
Miracle
Also,
Road is
the
another
Reno
deck.
Lock thing. The Reno Lock didn't lose. I don't think it lost anything. So
Reno Lock was good and is probably better now that the Giants matchup is going.
Sure.
I think that
Reno
even
Mage, too.
Even Shaman's going to continue to be good because Ed Paladin got worse. And Ed Paladin wasn't one of the really bad matchups for it, but sometimes the Giant decks give it trouble. But I think that deck just didn't really lose a ton in matchups, didn't gain a ton in matchups. None of its cards have been changed. I think that deck just continues to keep chugging along. I think Miracle Road might finally make some sort of a comeback now that Naga is gone. And Miracle Road is fine against
Everyone
Q-Block.
said that every meta, though.
Yeah, because it does kind of come back to the beginning of metas because stuff's like unrefined and Miracle Road kind of
True.
people there. But I think that deck is like, I mean, it's been like tier 3 in the hands of a good player. But
Yeah,
I
in the
think
hands of a good player is the issue.
in the hands, and just like it can beat Q-Block, it can beat the slow Druid decks when it's built. It can beat the slow Druid decks, it can beat most of the slow decks in the game. And now that the Giant decks, so you don't get, turn 5 2020s, I think it's gonna be fun now. Miracle Road, and it'd just be how much face stats there are, I guess now. If the face stats do come back, it probably won't be a thing. But if that meta is somewhat slow, like Miracle Road can beat even Shaman for sure. Even Shaman's slow enough that Road can beat it.
Especially with Sap, yeah.
Yeah, Sap and Flame Reef, any of the Overload threats is pretty good.
Yeah, Sap and Void Lords is also good.
Yeah. Or a cube, that would be sick.
Yeah. That's actually a play people don't go for as much as they should. When they play cube, just YOLO cubing.
Oh yeah. There is
Especially-
punish, but there isn't always the punish, if you know what I mean.
Especially against aggro a lot of times. It's actually really good play. Like get your Void Lord out and they have like 3 minions attacking, then you cube the Void Lord and then they can't make any attacks into you because you have 3 minions
Pretty
there.
much.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
all.
so do we want to go through some final thoughts on the nerfs and what your general opinion is, and then we can head on out?
Sure.
Very happy
Sounds good.
with the
Go
Call to
down the
Arms
list?
and Naga.
Yeah, so let's start with Chai. What are your final thoughts and what's your opinion on the nerfs and all that?
My final thoughts on the nerfs, I think these are good nerfs. I think they're fair. I think that there's been a very steady hand on the tiller with regards to how the nerfs happened. I think Naga being nerfed from 5 to 8 is good and will make a lot of people very happy. I don't even hate it, even though I love Naga. And I think that overall these nerfs are going to be good for the meta, and I'm really excited.
Sweet.
Okay.
So, Eon, over to you.
Honestly, I really enjoy the nerfs because it kind of slows down the thing I really hate the most in Hearthstone, and that's mana cheat. And I just feel like they should open up more because obviously nerfs are my favorite time in Hearthstone because new stuff evolve, and people try new things, and that small window where people are trying new things and not playing meta decks is my favorite time to play Hearthstone. So I'm very happy with these nerfs.
Yeah, it gets away from that stagnant period. All right, so
Very
over to you,
much.
Jonah.
They're all good. All good nerfs. Would have liked to see Barnes there, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, our orange-faced friend, or orange-haired friend, gets to live another day. Other than that, yeah, everything's good. It's all a lot more subtle than we're used to for Blizzard nerfs. Not very heavy-handed.
They're not. Nothing this set of nerfs was Warsong Commander level. Like
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think everything's going. Nothing was like, nothing was Warsongs. I think every nerf is going to affect the meta a little bit at least. in standard and wild. So yeah, I overall very happy.
Yeah, and I pretty much like the nerfs as well. I echo everything that everyone said here, pretty much, on that. Yeah, so let's wrap this up. We want to thank you from Wild Hearthstone. We're some of the wild experts, and we are excited about this, and we're really excited to see you playing some brand new decks on ladder to see if you can adjust and see how the meta turns out. Alrighty.
Also, you can check everybody's Twitter and social media in the description. So check us out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. See you guys later.
Submit
sorry,
your
go.
data to the Vicious Syndicate. Get a deck
Oh, yeah.
tracker and get the extension. It's online.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do that.
Yeah, alrighty. I'll see you guys later.
Take care.
Later.
Cool.